Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon or evening for some of us joining from remote sites. The aim was that our vice rector would present this morning and talk about the management view on educational technology and how our university is dealing with it. But our vice rector is also a member of the what is called the Corona Coordination Committee at the university, and they have an urgent meeting at 10 that started at 10 o'clock, and so I will represent him for this talk. I will share my screen. Let's see if that's gonna work. Good. So the title that Milena already announced in the program was why is KU Leuven as one of the oldest universities in Europe also one of the leaders in digital education? I hope that I can give that answer. I'm using the slides that the vice rector prepared for this talk, and he chose a slogan for this presentation, which is going digital but staying human. I think that this is maybe already the message in answer to the question. But maybe let me give a short overview of what I'm gonna tell you. I will talk a little bit about our university. I will also explain the going digital strategic plan of the university, and then I will move to some specifics related to the COVID pandemic, what is happening right now, and what how we look at the future based on the other things that I will tell you. So let me start with giving you first the profile of our university. KU Leuven is indeed one of the oldest universities in Europe. It all started in 1425. So that means that we are heading towards our 600th anniversary in a couple of years from now. We are already preparing for the celebrations, of course. It is a comprehensive university, which means that we do have almost all science and research domains represented in 15 faculties, which are then clustered into 3 groups of science domains, let's say. We do have humanities and social sciences, which are really in the inner part of the city of Leuven. We do have science, engineering, and technology, which is a bit outside the city center, but still close to Leuven. And that is where also IMEC, one of the, I think, well-known institutes for research in electronics is situated. And then we do have biomedical sciences clustered around the university hospital. We do have more than 60,000 students. And talking about the multi-campus, it's not only in Leuven that we have campuses, but we do have buildings and campuses in 14 in 10 cities all over Flanders, from the coast to the Dutch border. So that means that, or from an organizational point of view, that this is hard to manage. And you can also imagine that technology will play quite a big role in how we organize our education over these different campuses spread over the country. At the same time, we are also very internationally oriented, especially in the master's and also in the PhD programs. There is huge numbers of international students, and related to the Corona pandemic, a lot of things that we had to organize were especially related to international students, but I will come back to that later. And we also profile ourselves as a research-intensive university. For some of you, maybe the LERU network is known, the League of European Research Universities, and that is also hosted by our university. we are, well, for what it's worth, we are also quite well ranked in university rankings worldwide. In the Times Higher Education World Ranking, we are number 45 at this moment. And on the list of most innovative universities in Europe, we are ranked number 1. And number 7 in the world. These numbers fluctuate a little bit from year to year, but it just shows that we are, well, doing quite well on these rankings. Okay, as I already said, it's a very old and traditional university dating from 1425, but that doesn't mean that we are not looking forward and looking to the future, and that we also embraced technology in higher education already for years in the university. Even more to say, since the last management team was installed in the university, going digital was a strategic part of the plan for the university for the next management term, so to say. By the way, we do have an elected rector at the university, and then the rector then appoints his management team for a term of 4 years, and the rector can be rechosen, re-elected for another term of 4 years. And each term is also supported by a strategic plan. As I said, going digital is part of the overall strategic plan of the university. There are 5 projects in the strategic plan: going international, the future orientation in education, going digital, like I said, but also focus on interdisciplinarity and on sustainability. And for each of these components, there is a separate chapter, let's say, in the strategic plan, focusing on these aspects. The whole idea with the current management of the university is that they do not make plans for just their own term, but they want to make more visionary plans, more visionary strategic plans, and they envision a horizon of 10, 15 years for what they have in mind with these 5 pillars of the strategic plan. So that means that it goes beyond the term of the current management of the university. And I think that this is also quite important to know. It's more long-term vision and strategic planning than it was or it used to be in the past. Okay, let me then focus on that one particular component of the strategic plan, the going digital aspect. What is the rationale? What is the overall ideas? And that is going digital means that we are stimulating better learning and assessment. It is important to emphasize that the technology is just a means for us. What we are aiming with going digital is improving the quality of our teaching and learning. And we want with introducing the technology, our students to better learn and to better be assessed. Better learning means that we are focusing on what we call active and collaborative learning, or activated learning. So there is a lot of emphasis on the students to take their own learning in their own hands and to put them in the driving seat, so to say. They have to do the learning. We cannot do that for them, but we need to help them, to enable them, to foster activated learning with them. And if we do that, we also need to assess the progress our students are making in their learning, which means that we are focusing a lot on formative and summative assessment and how technology can help with that. So that means that we are also trying to introduce online assessment with the Going Digital plan. Okay. We are also creating or just envisioning new learning contexts. Like I already mentioned, the multi-campus of the university is forcing us to think about how we could organize the learning at the different campuses. And just to give an example, it's not worthwhile teaching at 10 campuses, 10 times the same course by the same teacher. So we need to come up with smarter solutions where we could link these 10 campuses together and to organize the education in such a way that it is feasible for the teachers, but also that the students can get the same learning experiences at all campuses and at all times. So that means that we have to cope with the situation in a smart way, and technology can help there. Okay. Another aspect of the new learning context is, and that is also related to the introduction of technology, is that we need to to focus also more on lifelong learning, continuing education, students that are not all the time on campus, part-time students, working students. So that there is a lot more different students now taking education at the university, and they come with different contexts that we have to embrace at the university. What we also aim with our Going Digital plan is to focus more on the incoming students. We want to help the students coming from secondary schools to higher education, to bridge the gap between what is happening in secondary and in tertiary education. We see that this is quite difficult for many of the students nowadays to make that jump from secondary education to higher education, and we need to help them more. And again, technology can help here with all kinds of self-tests students can take, with orientation tools that we offer for the students. So there is a lot that can be done there thanks to technology again. And we also want better study results. That means that we do quite a lot on learning analytics, trying to see where students are having problems and how we can detect these problems at an early stage, and also provide help and support to the students so that they can overcome the problems that they are experiencing. So trying to get lower dropouts and a higher student efficiency. Okay, and then the final, the fourth pillar, let's say, of the Going Digital action is that we also want to foster internationalization at the university. Like I already mentioned, we have a lot of international students, and we work together with many universities. We are partnered in several networks, also in this project here. So this is sort of DNA of our university. I don't know, but if we talk nowadays about Erasmus in Europe, well, Erasmus was one of the teachers at our university long time ago, and he was also wandering around in Europe, and that is maybe a good example of what a university should be. And going in his footsteps is also part of the DNA of our university, let's say. And nowadays, with the technology, that there is a lot more that we can do than what Erasmus could do at his time. Okay. These four, let's say, basic principles of the Going Digital plan is then translated in 10 policy objectives. And maybe I can just go through them one by one. there is an objective which is related to the technology, and maybe this is not that important, but the technology is the infrastructure, the backbone of everything. Like I already mentioned, we do have campuses all over Flanders, and we want our students to have the same learning experience at all the campuses. So that means that we had to set up a proper infrastructure connecting, linking these campuses all together, and providing all the services in these campuses like we used to have in our main campus in Leuven. So that means that we are in charge of that infrastructure. At the same time, we also want our students to have the same experience for their learning, and not just for us teachers. And that means that we also try to extend the network, the infrastructure, to the rooms where students are living and studying. That means that we also offer opportunities for students in what we call learning spaces, where they can come and sit together and learn together, but also that they can, from their own remote sites at home or in their dormitory, in the residency, they can connect to the infrastructure of the university. So making sure that that technology is up to date and of high quality, up and running 24/7, that is objective number one. On that platform, on that infrastructure, we do quite a lot with a learning management system. That's normal, I guess. In most universities, there is a learning management system. For us, for the moment, it is based on Blackboard, but we do not call it our Blackboard environment. We have a name for it, Toledo, and that is the environment, not just Blackboard, but everything that is connected to Blackboard. All the databases of the university with the students, with the courses, with the teachers, with the schedules, with the exam results, and all these databases are linked together in one learning environment, learning management environment. But that's not the end. The learning management environment should also support a learning experience, and that is what we are moving to. So the Toledo learning management environment is now more and more becoming a learning experience platform. So that means that we are enhancing the user experience, so to say, for both teachers and for students in the platform, and not just the management of the learning is happening there nowadays. So that was objective number 2. Number 3 is one where we have to admit that the ambitions are high, but at the moment we are not progressing quickly enough on that aspect, and that is online assessment. And I come back to that later. But the ambition, at least, is that we would like to see more happening in the digital learning environment on assessment, on online assessment. That means that it might be mixed formats, like, for instance, the first one here, examination centers, big rooms where students can come and do the online examination. The wildest ideas are that students could, from wherever they are, they could take the test in an online proctored or at least safe and secure environment. That is a wild dream. We haven't achieved it completely yet. Another objective, maybe, and that is, I think, a hype of the last couple of years, is that we also invested in MOOCs, and our MOOC portfolio has been extended, quite substantially in the last couple of years. We are also now looking more and more at MOOCs for credits. So the idea is that MOOCs are there for free and everyone, but we also want our MOOCs to be sort of possibility for students to get a certificate at least from our university based on a guided way of taking the MOOC together with an assessment in the end. It's also the rationale behind MOOCs at our university is that we will introduce MOOCs not just for the sake of MOOCs. We want those MOOCs also to have a spillover on our regular education. So whenever there is MOOCs developed, that is also enhancing the education on campus, and that is an important aspect of our efforts towards MOOCs, I think. And a last and final one here is that we do that in an international context. We are developing our own MOOCs, but we try to set up strong partnerships with other universities to share contents for the MOOCs or to promote the MOOCs, to attract students and so on. Okay. Learning spaces is a fifth objective. I already mentioned it briefly when I talked about the infrastructure. So we see that students nowadays are willing to study together. When I was a student, I remember that studying was something that you did alone, and I could study in my room at home, and that was nice and okay. But when we see the current generation of students, they need, let's say, a bit of social contact, and it's striking to see that, for instance, in preparation of exams, students are actually leaving their rooms and going to places where they can sit together with hundreds of other students, just to have that idea: I'm not learning alone. I'm part of a community. I'm part of a class. I'm part of a group of people doing the same things as I'm doing, and so they tend to go to these learning spaces to sit together, to socialize. They still have to study, but they need that the feeling that they are not alone. And so we are actually investing quite a lot on these learning spaces nowadays where that could happen, not just for preparation of exams, but also for group work, for project work, for remote teaching if necessary, so that there is these different places where students can come to, where they can meet other students and work together, sit together, talk together, socialize a little bit, but also study together. And so we did quite an effort on improving the infrastructure there, but there is still work to do. And especially now in Corona times, these learning spaces play an important role. I come back to that later. Learning analytics is another objective. Nothing new about that, I think. If you have a learning management system, there is a lot of data there. Now it's a matter of using this data to the benefit of teaching and learning at the university. And so that is the efforts we would like to do, and that is trying to to master these data and turn them into important information that we could use to improve the quality of our teaching and learning. So learning support is derived from this data, but also the learning dashboards to visualize progress that students are making, and that is available to all people that need to guide the students. Okay. Leuven Learning Lab is a rather new initiative, and that is an important one at the university. it is the name we use for a networked organization of support centers, support staff at the university. We used to have, and I was the director of that center for years, a central support unit that was helping the teachers with improving the quality of teaching and helping students with improving their learning experience. And that was done at the central level for the whole university. But in the meantime, the numbers of students have grown, the number of campuses have grown. So with a central organization, this was not possible to maintain for the future. And so now we are moving towards a more networked organization where we do still have a central support staff and a central unit that is helping with pedagogical and didactical and educational technology aspects, instructional design, that is there still. But we also have very local in the faculties and close to the teachers, more and more staff working there. So and we make an organization where those central and call it decentral units and entities and people are connected in one way, and that is what we call the KU Leuven Learning Lab. And they are still doing altogether the things that we did in the past, going from trainings to online support to individual support. So there is a lot that is still done like it used to be in the past, but with people not at one point in a central unit, but spread around over the whole university. Of course, there are new people in that structure, in that Leuven Learning Lab. There is the build of the central unit like it used to be in the past, but part of that budget and augmented with extended with new budgets allowed us to introduce new people, new staff members closer to the faculties, closer to the teachers. So we appointed new people, especially in trying to introduce in a smart way new principles of teaching and learning, new technologies supporting these principles, and so on. So these people, the new people, have in most cases a background that fits closer to the faculty, so closer to the subjects, the research domains in the faculties, so also the teaching programs in the faculties, and they do have a link with the pedagogical and didactical support staff at the central level. So it's these people that have the both competences, so to say. And that's what is also mentioned here on objective number 9, that is first line support. So with those new people, we are able to give individual support to individual teachers for their individual courses in their individual programs. And I think that this is important, that we are now very close, very near to the teachers in the faculties. And then the final one, which is also important from a managerial point of view, is that you need to stimulate innovation. I remember that I said that we are proud of our ranking being number 1 in innovation in Europe. That means that we also need to make that happen in the university with our teaching and learning. And so we are providing seed money for new projects, new initiatives, teachers that want to experiment, to try new things. And so they can mostly on a competitive basis apply for money for these projects. And that is what we call seed projects. At the other hand, and that's also important, I think. We are also providing money for scale-ups, scale-up projects. For instance, one of the smaller projects was about visualizing the data for students entering the Faculty of Engineering, Engineering Sciences. When they entered the university, they had to do sort of introduction tests. And based on this data, students could be oriented towards specific help if they had some gaps in their knowledge. And that system was developed in the Faculty of Engineering Sciences, but now it's rolled out for the whole university. So we scaled up that small project that worked for one particular faculty to a bigger project, which is now run for the whole university. Well, not for the whole university yet, but the rollout is there. The planning is there to do that for the whole university. So that means that we are not just investing in small, innovative, individual projects of individuals. We are seeing good results from these projects, from initiatives taken by teachers in faculties, and if that is something that we could scale up for the whole university. Those of the going digital plan of the university. Let me then, for the last 10 minutes, focus a little bit on what we did in terms of COVID-19 measures. Maybe first focus a little bit on the first wave. Yeah, also last year, like many other universities, last academic year, we had to switch from, let's say, overnight from an on-campus traditional face-to-face university with support of a digital learning environment, yes, but from that mainstream online, on-campus education, we had to switch to a completely online environment. That was possible because we had our strategic plan and we were already doing quite a lot on the different objectives that I was just mentioning. And so many of these objectives and things that we already did helped us to speed up in that process of transition overnight. So our infrastructure was quite stable and robust, and we didn't need to invest a lot on extra infrastructure, not for the backbone, but also not for equipment that was available for teachers in seminar rooms or in lecture halls or whatever. Of course, there were constraints and there were things that we had to consider there. But the basis was already quite strong. Same thing with the Toledo system, the learning environment. That was already a very stable system that was linked to all the databases at the university, that was integrated with all other information systems. And there was a possibility already for students to get remote access on mobile devices and so on. So there was not that much to be done there. The only thing that we had to improve a bit more and to do it a bit more quickly than we thought, that was the video storage, video recordings and video storage capacity. And therefore we've chosen Kaltura, for those who know it, as our, let's say, platform where we could do that on a larger scale than it used to be in the past. Okay. Also, the learning spaces, like I already mentioned, that was quite important for us. Not that much the learning spaces where students can come and sit together and work together, because that was not possible with Corona anymore. Students were not allowed to do that. But those learning spaces, I mean, the spaces where we already had possibilities for using video conferencing or remote teaching, that that these learning spaces, yeah, we invested now at a higher speed and a larger volume, a larger amount of money, sorry, into these learning spaces. So to allow virtual classrooms more than it was in the past. But already the first of these learning spaces, we already had them before Corona. So it was just now finding the let's say the investment money to make it happen at a higher speed. And then, yeah, I already mentioned the networked organization, the Leuven Learning Lab for training and support. Yeah, that was fortunately already established in the university. So we could support with the help of all the people that were connected in that Leuven Learning Lab. So that was, and they did a great job. I can say that as a teacher, the support, especially the online support, was great. One word about online examination. That was, like I already mentioned, one of the objectives in the Going Digital plan, which was not that well developed yet, and we discovered in the Corona pandemic times. Difficult. The whole idea was in June when we had the exams that we tried to yeah, to maximize the possibilities for students to have examination on campus. But in some circumstances, this was not possible, especially not for our international students who could not return in time for the exams or who didn't manage to be in one or another reason. We had exam formats which were close enough to what we used to have with our students, but yeah, which were adapted line, yeah, variant of the exams. We included always an oral component to be sure that students were not cheating. There was extra yeah, tools provided in the learning environment so that we could indeed have that possibility and talk with students. We used, for those who know it, Blackboard Collaborate for this, or Skype for Business at that time. Okay. The second wave, that's the current wave. Yeah, we were from the first wave. We took our lessons learned, and the second wave was yeah, going further on the line. Let's say we have now a full switch to Microsoft Teams at the university. We did more than it used to be in the first wave. We did focus a lot more on synchronous online lessons because we saw that our students were actually asking for that. It was not enough for them that we put material online and that we would then maybe have a Q&A session or something like that. The students really want yeah, interaction with teachers and other students, and so we are trying to do more synchronous online lessons, especially for our first year students. That is important. Like I said, we do a lot on the transition from secondary to higher education. This group of students was specifically in focus for our synchronous online lessons. We did more on learning spaces, but that's just what I mentioned before. And then, yeah, maybe another thing, the rotation of student groups is now an organizing principle in the university, in the sense that, yeah, at a certain time, it was allowed to have the seats in the room occupied ratio 1 in 2 of them, which means that each time there was an empty seat next to the students. At a certain moment, it was 4 empty seats next to the students, and now, okay, students cannot no longer come to the campus. But if you have to leave seats open in the room, that means that your rooms are too small to get all the whole group of students together, and that means that you need to divide the groups into 2 or into 5, and that each week you have another group of students in the room and another group of students taking the lessons from a distance. That needs a lot of organization work, and that was that's what meant by this. So we allowed students to come to the campus part, where we had only parts of the group of students that could participate in a face-to-face environment, but we rotated the groups so that everyone had a chance to meet the teacher, to meet their peers, maybe not every week, but every 2 weeks, or yeah, sometimes longer. That was the second wave. I think I have to speed up and finish. Let's what are the lessons learned that COVID has forced us to, let's say, that is that we need extra focus on online assessment. We also want to do more efforts on our MOOCs, and especially MOOCs for credits. We think that learning analytics is still a gold mine, which is waiting to be explored more. And then our first line support is something that we would like to cherish even more than it is already the case, and try to get more teachers, maybe, and that is mentioned here, to train some teachers so that they can also get the ball running in their faculty and be sort of champions helping each other. And then the very last slide is that we are trying, or we think that after we have let's say dealt with the corona pandemic, there is towards a high flex university, which means that we will have blended learning, blended in the sense that we will have students on campus and students in an off-campus online environment. That will be a blend for the next coming decades, let's say, and so we will have to cope with that system where we have partly students face-to-face in a classroom, but also students that are taking the courses from a distance. And we will have to cope with that situation, not just from an organizational point of view, and so the infrastructure and the technology, but also from a pedagogical point of view. How do you make the proper blend? How do you make the learning experience for both groups similar or comparable, or maybe complementary, and see how that could work is an important challenge ahead of us. And if there is one lesson learned from the corona pandemic, then I think that this is what we need to do to the benefit of the teaching and learning, to the benefit of students. So yes, we are going digital, but we are still putting the student in the center and helping our teachers to make that happen with our students. So staying human. And that's it. I think these are the.
Thank you, Wim. Well, I think that the biggest lesson learned is that you can be 600 years on the market and still the strategic plan is what you need to have in place. So
Right.
it's really what you are doing, right? And I remember one of our conversations. I remember one of our conversations when you said, well, I'm an engineer. I don't like problems. I like solutions. And with this mindset, we can definitely solve many more problems, even in the pandemic time. We have some questions. I will go quickly through them because we have to move on to the panel. But following up on the last slide, there is a question about pedagogy. So could you give some insight on how pedagogy has adapted to these technological implementations?
How the pedagogy was?
How pedagogy has adapted to these technological implementations?
Yeah, that's a good one. Actually, it's rather vice versa. We think that we, like I mentioned, we focus on activated learning in the university, and so we want our students to take their own learning process in their hands. So that is, I mentioned, we want them to sit in the driving seat of their learning process, and that is the basic principle. The technology is then following. So the technology is just a means for realizing that pedagogical concept of activated learning. So it's not the other way around. We are not adapting the pedagogy to the technology that we have. Okay, Corona is a bit different in that case. Yes, there was a lot that was no longer possible, and so the teachers that were used to interact with students in a classroom and were asking questions, for instance, to students, or organizing group discussions with students in a classroom, that was now not so possible, let's say, in the off-campus situation, and so teachers had to think about other ways how they could organize online group discussions, for instance, with the tools that were available in the digital learning environment. But it's my message here is that yes, we had to adapt and to think what is possible to the technology, and that I really want to do with my students. But that is not the way that we would like to work in the future. Pedagogy and didactics go first, and then the technology is just a supporting tool for that.
Okay, thanks. And staying in the topic of technology, is Toledo similar to Moodle?
No, yeah, I said that we are using Blackboard in Toledo, and Blackboard is comparable to Moodle, but Toledo is a bigger word for a full learning environment. Blackboard is a learning management system like Moodle is, but there is also the links with all other databases I mentioned, and there is, for instance, I also mentioned Kaltura, the video service, which is in Toledo. So there is a lot more that is connected all together into one comprehensive learning environment.